So far, so good.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing in here so early? I'm gonna turn it off. I'm still getting everything ready. Or are we just doing this?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure we were here early, Carrie and I, make sure Dana and commissioners can get on okay. But you're
Okay.
good.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna turn off and then I'll be ready at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So Laura, do you want to add me as a co-host or a?
Yes. I forgot how to do that.
So go to my name in the panelists.
Okay. It just says change role to attendee. It doesn't say change to host.
Okay. I wonder if it's because you already have a co-host. Oh, you know what? Maybe you need Dylan to do it.
Do I need to change it? Okay.
Just check my name, and if and then drop down my name and see if you can just turn me to the host.
Make host or co-host?
Try making me a co-host, and I'll see if I have the ability then.
Okay.
Carrie.
Did that work?
All right. Yes, I see you.
Carter.
Hey, Deanna, how are you? Hi, Laura.
Hi, Carter.
Hi, Dylan. Wake up, Dylan.
I don't see Dylan.
I told him he can get ready, so. Okay, Carrie,
We're gonna check to see if he's got his haircut.
recording right now.
Do you want you can
Can we pause until
I'm going to pause.
All the commissioners are here.
Amazing.
It's
a miracle.
It is a miracle. So I'll call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to ASCC's meeting of June 22nd. We have 2 items today, and I would like to share with the commissioners that these are action items, so we'll be voting and making motions, so make sure you take notes. And I'm going to throw it over to Laura to give instructions about how we're going to do things.
Great. I'll start with a roll call for the record. Commissioner Koch. Here. Commissioner Sill.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah.
Vice Chair Ross.
Here.
Chair Breen.
Here.
Okay, so thanks everyone. Welcome to our first ASCC meeting on Zoom. We are nervous and excited to try doing business this way. So a couple of things for everyone to be aware of. So the ASCC members and our applicants are considered panelists on this webinar, and then members of the public are welcome to attend and participate as attendees. So we will not be using the chat function for questions and comments. Instead, we'll be doing what is like our normal procedure, where the chair will call for public comments as appropriate in the agenda. And when that happens, if you're on a computer, you can use the raise your hand feature that you'll see a button on the, for most people, I think that's the right-hand side. If you're calling in on a telephone, you can press *9 in order to raise your hand. And then the chair will call for people to give their public comments, and staff will be assisting this. We have with us tonight Carrie Chin, who is our communications person with the town, and she's been helping with all of these meetings through council. So if we've got any kind of glitches using Zoom, Carrie will be able to help us with that. So we'll be supporting the chair moving through the public comments. We certainly appreciate everyone's patience as this is the first time that we're doing this. Applicants, we would encourage you to keep your microphones off until your item is called, and then you can feel free to, at your discretion, keep your video on or off when it's your item. And of course, we understand when your item is finished, you'll be leaving the meeting tonight, whatever time you would like to. And then commissioners, we would encourage you to keep your cameras on. Sometimes if there's a couple people talking at once on Zoom, it can be hard to understand a little bit. So we want to see how the background noise and the conversation goes. So you can try leaving your microphones on, commissioners, or you may wish to turn them off when you're not using them to make sure that we can all hear the speaker. So the format of the meeting is going to be like our normal meetings that we would hold as if we were in the schoolhouse. We'll have a staff presentation for you, and Dylan will be giving the staff presentations and will be sharing his screen to give you the presentation. So it would be similar to what you would see in the schoolhouse. And then the applicant will have a chance to speak. Some of them may be sharing their screen as well in order to present materials for you. So everything kind of in the same order, but just in a different electronic format. So that is staff's introduction. If at any point during the meeting, people have got questions or concerns about how the Zoom is going or what we're doing, making sure we're staying on the agenda, please let's just talk about it and problem solve as we go, and Carrie can help us as we need it. So thanks very much, everyone, for being here.
All right. With that, I will open it up for oral communications for anyone who's in the audience out there who would like to make a comment regarding anything that's not on today's agenda. We can listen to those comments, but we really can't take action. So if anyone wants to make a comment about anything not on the agenda, you can raise your hand. And not seeing that, I think we will move on to item number 1. And Dylan is doing the presentation.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
First off?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen to start the presentation. So give me a moment. Okay, can everybody see the presentation?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. All right, so the first item is a architectural review application to replace existing housing with a new modular housing unit in the same location. So to just begin with a vicinity map, everybody is pretty familiar with the Priory campus. I just wanted to kind of zoom out the picture and show you where the actual unit will be installed. So if you look at the zoomed out picture, there is the yellow square that shows the existing bungalow and a detached greenhouse that's northerly of Gambetta Lane. And as you move to the right with the zoomed in picture, this just kind of gives you more of a more detail of the site, of the existing conditions. Okay. So the proposal is to demolish the existing bungalow due to its aging in nature, and replacing it with a modular housing unit. The modular housing unit is slightly larger than the existing residence by 535 square feet. So there'll be an additional 535 square feet on the Priory campus, which is accounted for within the first row as the master plan and the conditional use permit dictate those maximum allowed. Additionally, there is a new driveway with 2 surface parking spaces, a concrete walk, and then a small concrete rear patio and a slightly high retaining wall and the rear of the residence. So with those additional impervious surfaces, we have a net increase of 1,301. And so that's additionally noted in the table. There's an error in the table. The 307,817 should actually be 7,876, I believe, is what's in the staff report. So the table in the staff report is correct. This slide is incorrect for whatever reason. Additionally, there was one error in the staff report that I want to correct for the record. The proposed height is actually 14.5 feet. The proposed in the staff report is 28 feet high. That's a staff error, my apologies. The northeasterly side setback, so the reason this is called out within this table is the master plan and the conditional use permit regulates the setbacks. Specifically, there has to be a 50-foot setback from every property line. This proposal meets that and exceeds it. We have 312.5 feet of distance between the northeasterly property line and the new residence. Additionally, there are 2 more parking spaces that are being allocated on site. So now we have 26 available spaces remaining per that CUP and master plan. So now moving to the grading plan, just for context, this project did not trigger an additional site development permit, given that the threshold per the town code is 51 cubic yards. But this is just for informational purposes, just to demonstrate kind of the movement on site in terms of cut and fill. And so just to indicate that the net total of off-haul will be 3.3 cubic yards. Primarily the movement of soil, most of the cut is associated with pushing back the building pad a little bit to accommodate the new larger residence and adding a 1.5 foot tall retaining wall to kind of hold back that surcharge as the upward slope in the rear. And then there's some additional cut and fill primarily for the new driveway and the new ground covered, the new covered parking spaces adjacent, and then the concrete wall. All right, so now moving to materials and finishes. All the materials that are proposed for the exterior do conform to the town's policy in relation to materials and finishes. Noting that the board and batten siding, it has an LRV of 44, with the trim and railing having an LRV of 10. The composite shingle roof has an aged bark color. And then the windows and doors, they're pre-installed. They appear to be white vinyl framing. I'll defer to Carta to confirm if that's true or not. But in terms of all of the materials proposed, they do conform to town code. And now turning to elevations, as you can note that the maximum height is the 14 foot and 6 inches. Note that there's articulation to the front, and it has a relatively rectangular massing on the sides and the rear. And so now turning to the lighting plan, there's only 2 fixtures proposed. These fixtures actually are not only in conformance with the town code in relation to lumen output, dark sky compliance, but these are also the same fixtures that are used. Most recently, there was the 6-unit housing project that was proposed, approved, and I believe currently under construction. These are actually also being used on that building as well. So it creates synergy and symmetry in terms of the overall feel of the campus. And now turning to the landscape plan, there's minimal landscaping proposed, mainly because there's 2 existing trees within the front of the existing residence that adequately screen it. And there's also that existing hedge that runs along currently it's almost a dirt, unpaved, unofficial driveway that separates the existing residence and that detached greenhouse. And so there are 4 new 5-gallon Miraca Californicas that are proposed to screen the new 2 covered parking spaces. There is 1 new Quercus Kalagi, 15-gallon, located in the front where the pedestrian concrete wall approaches from Gambetta to the front entrance. And then lastly, there are 3 new 5-gallon, I believe they're sumac shrubs that are located in kind of the southwestern quadrant of the new residence, just to add additional screening from Gambetta Lane as it makes that right angle turn. And so just turning to public comments, town policy was followed. We noticed the neighbors within a 300-foot radius. That notice was sent out on June the 12th. There have been no comments received by staff for the project. And then these are just the design review findings that the ASCC needs to make. Staff feels that these findings can be easily made given the scope of work. And so with that, Staff is recommending that the ASCC receive a report from staff, which we've done, receive public comments, if anyone in the audience is wanting to speak on the matter, consider the project, and then approve the project of proposed modular housing and an exemption subject to the conditions of approval. One note is, so the exemption that staff is requesting, the green building ordinance does specify that you must create a green building checklist for any new housing within the town. However, because this housing unit is prefabricated, staff is relying on both state and federal regulatory certificates, approvals, etc., to assure that this is being built to current green building codes, if you will. But also there's a part in the green building ordinance that talks about feasibility, and staff believes that it would be extremely challenging, considering the prefabricated nature of the materials, for the applicant to identify framing materials, etc., to adequately complete the checklist. And so staff feels that staff supports approval of the exemption based on these limitations and challenges due to the prefabricated nature of the unit. And so with that, that concludes staff's presentation, and we're available for any questions.
Thank you, Dylan. Do any other commissioners have questions for Dylan or staff?
No.
I do. I guess I have a question about the exemption to the green building ordinance. You know, just my first take is I'm pretty uncomfortable with that. And it seems to me that this will set a precedent that we could end up with, you know, this coming up again at the Priory. It could end up coming up at the Sequoias. It could come up at ADUs. And I'm not sure that I think it's a good idea that we should just assume that all modular housing is built to something that we would be happy with in Portola Valley. So, you know, if you could expand on why you're confident that this, you know, would meet something in, excuse me, that's my phone. If you could expand on why you think that we really can be confident that anything that we get in terms of modular housing would meet the green building ordinance, I could feel better. But on its surface, I'm actually quite uncomfortable with that.
Okay, happy to elaborate. So I think the challenge, at least in this context, is the way that the green building code, the language. So the language kind of guides the conversation. So the way that the green building code is written, and additionally how the Build It Green or LEED or any type of certification process works, is it's based off of constructing on site. So you're talking about foundation, framing, roughing of the electrical, mechanical, plumbing, etc. In this instance, the challenges are that the factory is doing all of that in an off location, and then it's being transported to a site, to this site, and the only thing that's really happening on-site construction-wise, i.e. what would be inspected through the building department, would be the foundation, so the anchoring of the unit permanently, etc. So the challenge would be, there's a twofold challenge. Number one is typically modular housing is certified by both at the state level and then also the federal, the Housing and Urban Development Department. They have separate regulatory processes that these housing units go through. So the challenge would be we as a town, in respect and kind of within that framing of how we would require additional components to a modular unit, with respect to that the state and the federal government are taking the lead on certifying these, we would need to find out, we, planning department, would need to see what additional measures are done at those levels to ensure that Build It Green levels are achieved. So that's really, in this instance, there's that disparity between what we could necessarily require per the green building ordinance. There is also language about the exemption, the feasibility, And so based on that, without having the applicant actually go through an inspection cycle where those things would typically be confirmed by our building inspector or building official, we're kind of encumbered, I would say would be the best way to put it, to not exempt this project. Whether or not this creates a precedent, that would be something that we as a department would need to look at to see if there's some firming up of the language that needs to happen, in the sense of, if you choose a modular unit, it must be pre-certified at a certain equivalent build it grain. I know that was a bit long verbose, but I just wanted to kind of.
It's a good answer. I guess you started towards the end. You really hit kind of my point. I'm not comfortable saying that any project can go through with no rules, essentially. So I think that the planning department should say, okay, if we're going to accept modular housing, this is what it has to meet. But just accepting that any modular housing we're just going to assume is okay, that doesn't seem okay to me. So I guess I'm very uncomfortable with just this going through with no rules at all. I mean, as a town, we've said that we want our housing stock to be built in a sustainable manner, and just ignoring that on any project to me is not acceptable. I think that the right approach is for the planning department to say, okay, the Build It Green checklist may not apply, but for something modular to go through, it needs to do X. And without that, I'm not comfortable with this.
I hope that Carter will be able to elaborate more when it comes to his comments. So are there any other questions from the commissioners? Jane?
Yeah, I'd actually like to see a modular unit pre-approved for the town of Portola Valley, or maybe a selection of modular units, so that people don't have to have the increased costs that for planning and ASCC, so that they can do the units cheaper. But I agree with Al that they do need to conform to our general plan, etc. But I would like to see at some point a list of pre-approved modular homes that somebody can just say pick off and then build, because we've already approved that design, and we agree that if it stays like that, it's a good design. So that was all.
Megan or Dave, questions?
Questions for town.
I have a quick question, Dylan. Remind me of the roof material?
The roof material is a composite shingle. Let me just see if I can pull it up for you. Let me share my screen real quick. Here we go.
And a dark color. And is there any solar plans?
I do not believe so. There's no solar plan. Do you see are you seeing the color material board?
Yes, thank you.
That's good, thanks.
Okay.
All right, then let's turn it over to Carter, and Tim Molak, I think, is in the audience. Can you guys unmute him?
Yep, I am in.
Okay. All right, Carter.
Thank you very much, Dana. I really appreciate, the ASCC and the town working together to make this virtual meeting happen. It's very important for this project, as well as many others in town. This project is actually the replacement of the existing BMR, the dedicated BMR home on the Prairie site. So making sure that it's affordable is a part of our effort here with the town and with the Prairie. I can't tell you that I really enjoyed designing this building. And the effort of picking a modular building that is pre-designed and pre-approved, through the state, and the federal, housing and urban development department, is essential, in making this affordable. Part of what the town green building checklist does is increase the cost of building. And, you know, there are a lot of efforts, you know, at the state level, you know, that have just, you know, come into, you know, been enacted, you know, and became, you know, actionable January 1st, you know, was to purposely, you know, make towns and agencies, you know, stop making their housing more expensive, you know, and actually forcing, you know, towns like Portola Valley, you know, to accept affordable housing for being affordable, you know, and factory built housing, you know, is part of that effort, you know, and having those, you know, approvals statewide, you know, or countrywide, you know, is part of what's doing that. It takes work out of, you know, the local architect's hands. It also takes work out of, you know, the town building department's hands, because the approval process, you know, is beyond their reach. And that is, you know, in many ways why, you know, this modular home, you know, is going to be more affordable per square foot than any home that's being built, you know, in the town of Portola Valley. From the Priory's point of view, it's a replacement. You know, it's replacing, you know, the home essentially in the footprint of the existing home that was there, you know, from, you know, the Gambetta Ranch, you know, days. It was badly decayed from both dry rot and termites. This home will provide a much better opportunity, you know, for someone to live, you know, on campus, you know, in a rational and reasonable way with 3 bedrooms. You know, the colors and materials, you know, were selected, you know, to blend, you know, with the existing housing development, you know, in that end of the campus, you know, and the lighting fixture, as, you know, Dylan has pointed out, is the same lighting fixture that was approved, you know, for the other, you know, affordable homes, you know, the faculty homes, you know, next to, you know, the apartments that we built a few years ago. We look forward to, you know, your approval. I'm sorry, you know, if, you know, making this affordable, you know, is somehow going to, you know, skip over, you know, the green building checklist, but the green building checklist, you know, Al, substantially increases the cost of housing.
Thank you. Tim, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm just, I don't know all the specifics about how, when they build the manufactured homes, what the standard is to meet green standards. And again, if that's a direction the commission feels they need to go to see how it matches up with Portola Valley's. Dave Shinsky is also on here. Dave is head of our Building and Grounds Committee and works at Stanford and all of their housing and athletic facilities, and I think might have some additional comments. So he is, you can see his name there. So if you would allow him to speak, he'd probably be a little, he'd be a better person to answer some of those questions.
Am I coming in?
Are you there, Dave?
Yeah, sorry. When I first logged on, I came on through Tim's link, so I was showing up as Tim, and I didn't want to tweak that. So I wrote a quick note to Tim on the side here. I think, and I'm not super familiar with the specific town ordinance, but it seems like there's 2 areas of green building and compliance. Part of it's the process of green construction, and the other part's sort of the materials and finishes. I'm assuming, and I think there's got to be a way that we can, do a checklist, and Carter jump in and help me with this, but I think there's a way that we can sort of bridge the gap and make the assumption that on the constructability side of this, that the efficiency, the affordability, and the construction protocol is regulated by the state and HUD, and I think that rubber stamp approval, I would hope that you guys would accept. And then if Carter and Priory can work it, maybe checklisting some of the other materials and finish stuff, it seems to be a good middle ground there.
You know, so many of the things that are required with the green building checklist don't have anything to do with, you know, this project, since none of it's built on site. You know, the 2 halves are, you know, built in a factory in the most efficient manner possible. with the least amount of materials, and one of the greenest parts of this building is that it's a 1,300 square foot building that has 3 bedrooms, instead of being a 3,500 or 4,000 square foot building. And I think we have to look at that, as being a part of our effort. The other thing is that this building doesn't end up with a permanent foundation. It ends up being blocked up on concrete pads and staked to the ground, much like a lot of the housing on the interior of the United States, because a large majority of the housing that's built in the United States on properties is modular homes, because that's the most affordable way to actually make housing. I think to today's point, there are a lot of things that we can do on the side to attend to the green building checklist points without complying with the green building checklist. I don't know if you all know, right now to use the green building checklist, since January 1st, we have to pay for it by project. It used to be free. And now it actually, there's a charge, because the green building checklist is produced by a private company and actually has the copyright of it. And it's very similar to the way Microsoft got us all, hooked on their software, was to let us use it for free. And then, come back later and say, oh, now you have to be charged for it. Mm-hmm. But so I think, some in-between point, to attend to Dave's, suggestion, and Al, your desire for it to be green. My sense is that, if there was a way to do a modular building, under the green, building checklist, this would be a very green building because it's small. It uses the least amount of materials. It's built off-site. So the environment is affected, the absolute least. And then it's 2 halves are assembled on site. There was one other thing that I wanted to attend to, from Dylan's, presentation. He mentioned our 2 parking spaces a couple times. Our 2 parking spaces are uncovered. They're not covered. Just to be clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
What about the vinyl windows being white trimmed?
That's the factory standard. I think there's probably one other color, but it's not going to be, it's going to cost more. And, it's going to end up probably not matching the color palette that we're working on. If we go back to the, to the pictures, Dylan, if you could, the amount of the white, is very, very small.
Can everyone see that?
Yep.
You could scroll it up a little bit, so we could see the picture. So, my issue is that the amount that is actually white is so small. It's kind of a rounding error.
Yeah.
Is there another color though for the vinyl?
Yes.
Or is it just white?
I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I mean, aesthetically, Carter, I'm sure you can agree, the white isn't that pleasing.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of this is that, Tim and his staff have tentatively made a deal, for this modular building, and I think that's the way it's spec'd out right now, is with the white vinyl windows.
Well, maybe you could just check and see if there's an alternate color.
I can check and see.
Okay. Any other questions from commissioners to the team here?
No.
Carter, Dave, or Tim?
I had one question, yeah. I thought that from the write-up, it made it sound like there was not going to be a fence, but when I look in the plans, it looks like there is a fence along the front of the building. So could you clarify if there's going to be a fence or not?
Dylan, could you look at the site plan?
All right, that might help. Can everyone see the title page of the plans?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So what page are we referencing, Commissioner Sill?
Let me pull it up real quick, just a sec. It would be my computer's being a little bulky right now. Just a sec.
Probably A 1.2.
Okay. Let me. So I have A 1.2 on the screen. I can. Is it zooming in for everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. You're right, Dave. That's it. It's got a fence along the front.
Right.
Okay.
A 6-foot wooden wire fence.
Yeah.
Existing fence?
I mean, when I was over there, it looked to me like there was a construction fence, but I didn't see any sort of a wood fence. So it didn't seem like that fence is really there.
Wood lattice.
So from the design, the intention is to give some, private outdoor space, to this residence.
Okay, so the plan is to have a fence.
Yeah, I remember there being an existing fence there, but maybe that's come down since the plan was prepared.
Okay, I mean, if there is an existing fence, it's hidden by the
Construction.
Yeah, I don't think it's there because I could look through the fence that's there and see the residence pretty clearly. So yeah, I don't think there's a fence there now,
Okay.
besides the construction fence.
Yeah, the goal is to take that space between the driveway and the residence, and that be the private outdoor space for the house. Because the kitchen and the main living room and dining areas look out that way.
Okay, but yeah, it kind of looks out into a nice environment. The whole Priory campus is quite attractive. So breaking it up with a fence is not obvious to me that that's an improvement, but I can see at least what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, we do have quite a lot of of traffic and deliveries that come by along that driveway.
Okay, and the intention is to actually leave that whatever it is, bottle brush hedge intact.
Well, except for what we have to cut down to to make the parking area.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's an incredibly unattractive hedge. I'm surprised that the choice would be to leave that there.
The things that we're doing is trying to make this as, I mean, we're not trying to turn this into a giant landscape project either.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, just cutting it down and extending the fence over there would be an improvement. I'm not saying landscape, but yeah, okay, I understand. I hadn't appreciated that your overall goal was a below market rate house. So that clarifies a lot of things.
Yeah, this is the house that's there. Actually, is the one dedicated, under the conditional use permit, to be a below market rate unit.
Okay. And
this is replacing that.
All right.
Yeah, and
thanks.
to do that in a way that gets, three bedrooms and 2 baths, I think is, pretty extraordinary.
All right. Any other questions from the commissioners?
No.
Okay. Then I'm going to open up public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on this project?
And through the chair, there's one person that's on the phone. So we just wanted to make sure you understood the instructions. If you want to make a comment, please press *9. The person who is on the phone.
All right, it doesn't appear that there's any response. And so I'm going to close public comment and move to the commissioners. And so how about Dave? You want to give a start?
Sure, happy to. Well, I think that starting from a high-level overview, the project meets the design criteria, the findings very well. It's a modest building. It sort of tucks into the landscape or the land form. It's an improvement over what's there visually, in my view. The colors and materials are very compatible. I think it's actually a pretty nice solution for replacing that BMR house. I don't have a problem with the idea of a privacy fence if one isn't there to construct one. I note that there's an outdoor hot tub in the corner of the house that might be screened a little bit from view by that fence. I assume that's what that platform tub is on the corner there, or is that on the interior? Anyway,
Muted.
much of the
there's no outdoor hot tub.
Oh, okay. It's an indoor tub. Got it. With some large windows. So like Al, I'm a little concerned about a type of housing that may escape review for compliance with environmental concerns. So I would really welcome some staff attention at some time in the not too distant future to develop some kind of criteria or requirements of manufacturers to let us know how things are built, what kind of materials are being used, so that we can make sure that there's a satisfactory compliance. Now, the Build It Green checklist is quite a bit about process, so it wouldn't really apply here. They're estimating the number of trips to the site. There are some ways that if you did try to use that checklist, this project would be exemplary because it reduces the construction impact.
Yep.
But the type of materials used and so on are kind of a mystery to us. I'm sure the manufacturers can provide that kind of information if they're alerted to the need for it. And they may do it for other jurisdictions already.
Yeah.
So I think that would be something for staff to put on the checklist to ask for when we get a modular project. But apart from that, I'm fully in support of this project. I think it's going to go very well. And it's going to be a little tricky sneaking it in between the trees, but I'm sure you can do it. And I look forward to seeing it take place.
Thanks, Dave. Megan?
Yeah, I'm going to assume that this modular building does follow at least California standards of sustainable building. I would love to see if there is an alternative to the white vinyl, the materials around the windows, and if that can be achieved at a low cost, that would be wonderful. It's basically replacing a dilapidated building, the same footprint, below market rate housing. I think that's all positives for this project. the colors and materials work well. And I'd like to see this go forward.
Thank you. Jane?
Hi. Yes, I also like the project, and I agree with Commissioners Ross and Koch regarding compliance for future affordable housing, because anything which makes building affordable housing cheaper in Portola Valley is very welcome. I agree with Commissioner Koch about the white vinyl. If it's not going to increase the costs too much, it would look better. But otherwise, I support the project and I look forward to seeing it in reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Al?
Okay, I really think that the Priory and Carter have done a great job with this, given the objective of a low-cost solution to housing. So I am not against this at all from the point of view of the work that's been done. And, you know, I think that that I'm not a big proponent of the process of Build It Green either. What I would really like to see is the planning staff to come up with some guidelines that say, if you're going to do below market rate, or if you're going to do modular housing in Portola Valley, it just needs to have such and such a certification, and then that's the equivalent. And so that should be quite cheap, but you know, I'm just really uncomfortable with the idea that we're just going to give all modular housing a pass without knowing that it really is conforming to some sustainability guidelines. I think that everybody's made good arguments that it's very likely that it does, but there could be different sorts of ratings or standards, and it'd be great to know that anything we approve is going to meet certain standards. So I guess if I can get some agreement out of planning that, you know, within 3 months we'll have something like that, fine. Otherwise, I think I'm just going to vote against every modular house. I'm very serious that we have to have some sort of certification for modular housing if we're going to have it. And I'm not really interested in pushing the Priory to go through the process. That doesn't seem like it provides any particular value. What we really need is something that says, yeah, such and such a body has certified this, and if they do that, that's good enough for us. That's all I'm looking for. So that's really where I come down on the idea of how do we guarantee that modular housing has sustainability certification to it. You know, in general, I don't find the architecture particularly inspired, but I think it exactly meets what's needed: an inexpensive type of housing, which we need more of in Portola Valley. So I think that's great. And I thought the landscaping was appropriate. I really don't like the hedge, but you know, given what we're trying to do here, I guess that's acceptable. I think the color palette's fine. And I think that just the basic idea, you're replacing an eyesore that must be a safety hazard with, you know, a very livable house. So I think that's great. Yeah, so that's really kind of my statement. So if the planning people can say, yeah, we will get our act together with modular, fine, I'm going to be in support of this. And if we can't get to that agreement, then, you know, I'm going to be against every modular house. Yes.
Carter?
All of these homes, you know, are certified by the California Department of Housing and Community Development. Yeah, they're providing, you know, essentially, effectively the building code for modular homes. The process that they go through is quite extensive. It actually takes longer, you know, to get a modular home approved, you know, through, you know, the California, you know, HCD than it does to get it, you know, approved, you know, by the individual building departments. The reason that these companies do this, you know, is so that they can do it once and then they can sell this building multiple times, you know, in every jurisdiction, you know, in the state. and actually, there are prohibitions, for, creating, additional, thresholds, for modular homes, throughout the state. So, while I support, the effort, of the Priory, looking into ways that this building is meeting the intent, of the Green Building Code, I think that, the town needs to think long and hard about, what it takes to get beyond HCD, when they're dealing with modular homes.
Yeah, I'm not looking for anything beyond normal. I'm just looking for some guarantee that the home has been certified and what that means. I mean, there could be all kinds of certifications, and I'm particularly interested in, has it been certified to be energy efficient? Not just the materials, but, is it energy efficient? And if there are variations in how energy efficient a home can be, then we should be using manufactured homes that have some level of energy efficiency and not just a bunch of single pane windows and, all the poor insulation and practices of the past.
Well, I don't see that any of that is, is problematic. The building code itself, is published online, through the California Department of Housing and Community Development. So, sharing that, is an easy thing to show. This building will, comply with that, because that's the building code that these buildings are actually built under and are inspected, by HCD, in the factories.
Okay,
thank you.
thanks.
Jane?
Yeah. Am I correct in thinking, Dylan, that you only want that this modular house you suggested should be granted an exception, but you're not going to do it for every modular house? So they're all going to still come in front of us for discussion. It was just that this particular one you asked for an exemption.
Right. So the structure of the green building ordinance requires any project that is subject to the green building ordinance to either provide the Build It Green checklist or some other certification process, or go through the exemption process. So each modular home theoretically would have to go through this process. So if a modular home requests an exemption, it would be in front of the ASCC in addition to the architectural review. So short answer is yes.
Okay.
And if I may, through the chair, provide a little bit more background information, and staff will have to do some verification on this because this discussion, these points are well taken. And more building components are built in factories these days, both entire houses as well as building components. So we recognize that this is an area that we want to get more information on. So the two things I'd like to add is that we need to look into what the state law says about how we can regulate modular housing. So there is guidance in housing element law that sets the standard that modular units should be reviewed through the same process and not put through any more difficult process than standard built housing units, because that's to encourage affordable housing construction. So we just need to look at that law and make sure that there's nothing there that preempts us from setting a different green building standard. And my understanding is similar. I would say, I would express it similar to Carter did, in that I've understood the standard that these units are constructed at to be a high green building standard, but I think we can get more information about what those standards are and what they mean, to Commissioner Sill's point. And the town council, before the shelter in place, was considering the green building ordinance. So this would be very appropriate for planning staff to go back to Brandy DeGarmo and talk with her and make sure that we have considered this in the green building ordinance. So I think the timing for that is very good. I can't say, given all the different towns' priorities right now, that that would be something that would be done immediately, but I certainly can assure you that it's something that we would look into and would expect to be able to solve before we would have another modular unit before the commission.
Great.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
I see a lot of them.
Okay.
Jane, are you finished?
No, I didn't say anything.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're on the same page, and I think this project really makes sense, and I think we should move it forward. And I hope that there is another vinyl color because that's how we treat windows. So, you know, I support this project, and I ask the commission if anyone would like to take a crack at a motion.
I can make a motion to approve this project at the Priory, including the findings, with the condition that the window vinyl color is considered being something more appropriate to our town guidelines. That's it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? That's Dave. Did you see that? Dave did the second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed. The motion carries. And so we're good to go, Carter.
Thank you.
Okay, good job, Carter.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I don't know how close we are to your retirement, but I want to take this moment in this venue to say thanks for all of your contributions to the community, for your close collaboration with town staff. It's always a pleasure when you come to these commissions and work with us. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It's a week from tomorrow.
Wow.
Wow.
So this
Congratulations.
is a good way to end. Thank you so much to all of you. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good luck, Tim.
Thanks, Jane. See ya.
All right.
All right. We're on to item number 2 of new business, the architectural review of landscaping and associated site improvements at 19 Redberry Ridge. And it looks like we have George in the audience, and let's see. And is George architect? Derek? Anyway, are they there?
I am here.
George.
I'm here.
Okay.
Derek Eichelberger.
Hello. Well,
Hello.
welcome. And I believe Dylan is again doing the report on this project.
Can I ask a couple of questions about the paperwork before it begins? For clarification.
Yes?
On page 25.
Whom? To plan staff?
Yes, this is the staff. On page 25, in the first paragraph, it says June the 12th. Should that be June the 22nd? Because it's being reviewed by us today.
Laura, are you looking at that? Dylan?
Page 25.
Are you talking about page 25 of the full? Is it the red page number 25?
The red number 25.
Okay.
We've only got one. We've got the packet on screen.
Yeah,
okay.
you're correct. It should be today's date.
And
Okay.
then still on page 25 at the bottom, it says the Planning Commission. Shouldn't it be the ASCC?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
All right. I just wanted to make sure before we started that we were clear. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Dylan, can you proceed with your report? And then we'll move to George and David.
Okay. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this project is an architectural review for hardscape and landscape improvements at an existing single-family residence. Give me a moment. Okay. Oh, here we go. All right, so just to give you a vicinity map of the existing house, the existing impervious surfaces and landscaping. And then moving to the impervious surface plan. And so there are the most notable additions to the on-site impervious surfaces is this new garden area, this a sinuous path that runs from the existing auto court into the side area, this to the rear lawn. There is some swap out of impervious surfaces, particularly within the front auto court. And so the net increase for the site is this 533.96. The impervious surfaces are subject or limited by the Blue Oaks planned unit development statement, which is 12,000 for the site. We are well under that by having a new 5,800.78. This is the landscaping plan. I broke it into two, a northern and a southern portion, just giving the size of the site and the complexity of the landscaping plan in terms of being in all cardinal directions. So as we are in the northern portion, you'll note that there is some additional planting located in this area. There's some planting that hugs this portion, the northerly portion of the house. There's also some additional plants that are proposed in this area as well. As you move closer towards the southerly portion in the driveway, there's a grouping of new plants proposed in this new front entry staircase area. I just wanted to note that some of the information that was on the water efficiency checklist may be inaccurate. And so I've asked the applicant to kind of address a little bit more. There may have been some miscalculations with the hydro zones and the special landscape areas as it relates to, for example, pools and spas. So I'm going to defer to the applicant's team to address that more in detail. But overall, the landscaping itself, as per the town's water efficiency ordinance, it is well below the maximum allowed water allowance for the site. The numbers, the MAWA number will change significantly, but it will be below what the estimated total water usage will be below the MAWA number. So it will still be in compliance in terms of the modified numbers that I hope the applicant's team can elaborate on. But I just wanted to point that out for the record. The landscaping area and the irrigation area may also be different. So I'm gonna leave that to the applicant's team. Moving towards the southern portion, this is where the majority of the new landscaping it's taking effect. So as we note, the new garden area, the garden path area, there are fruit trees that are proposed by the owner that are kind of in a grove pattern in this. There's some additional screening shrubs that are located. As you move towards the auto court, there's some new landscape planting area that was previously parking. You have some here as well. And then as we move towards the driveway approach and the curb cut in the apron, you've got some new landscaping that kind of frames the driveway more on this side versus on the left-hand side. And then so turning to the lighting plan, there are two fixtures that are predominantly proposed. The landscape section of the staff report shows 3, but this fixture is being used both as a step light and also as a retaining wall. So they're both integrated. They're just this unit is being utilized in 2 different forms on site, but it's 1 unit. And then additionally, you have the path light. As you'll note, the predominant area that the step light and the wall lights are being utilized is within that new downward entryway that leads to the front entrance. And then there's these new retaining walls that have several of the lights integrated into them. As you move towards the path lights, they predominantly are within this new garden path area. There's some that frame a little bit of the new path planting area that's near the side of the auto court. There's one here to note as the driveway turns. And then there's some new path lights that run the northerly portion of the house with this new, there's pathways that are approaching this reconstructed spa. And then there's one here. And then I have to move everybody's faces real quick because I can't see the other side. And then there's some new paths. There's new path lights over here that just kind of frame out this existing landscape area adjacent to the spa. And then there's just one path light here framing out this area, this outdoor space area. Public comments. Notices were sent to neighbors within a 300-foot radius. Those were mailed out. That should be June the 12th, not June the 22nd. That would be today. And then no comments have been received by staff as of today's presentation. And so now turning to, as this site is subject to the town's design guidelines, but it's also subject to the Blue Oaks plan unit development statement. Staff just wanted to point some areas of the statement where the project does conform. This is just a list of the various components of the statement where the project conforms in terms of, for example, the planning and the planning palette, the selection of native plant materials, the architectural and site design, native materials again, no blocking of significant views from adjacent lots, and then there's no grading proposed. So most of the new hardscape is to replace existing pathways on site with different natural materials. That leads into building materials. Number 3, they're natural and they have a color that blends into the existing environment. The exterior lighting, it does conform in terms of the minimum required for safety, downward directing and shielding the light, and then low lumen output. The fence and site walls. The new garden area does have a 6-foot tall deer fencing, but it's limited to the perimeter of that area, mainly just to protect the new fruit trees from deer and other creatures wanting to enjoy the fruit. And finally, the impervious surfaces that are proposed do not exceed the prescribed maximum of 12,000 that is detailed within that planned unit development statement. And then turning to the design review findings that need to be made by the ASCC. Staff feels that these findings can be easily made based on the conformance with the PUD, but also based on the conformance to the design guidelines as previously mentioned in the conformance to the PUD. And so with that, staff is recommending that the ASCC receive the report, receive public comments, and then consider the project and approve the proposed not modular housing, approve the proposed landscape and hardscape improvements subject to the conditions of approval of attachment 1. There's one note that staff wanted to make in review, last minute review of the plans. It does look like there is stone paving proposed with the curb cut and driveway approach. I would need to confirm whether or not, I know that the town does not allow that for public right-of-ways, but I would need to confirm if that's something that the PUD would allow. So that may be something that should be added as a condition of approval. Other than that, that concludes staff's report, and we're available for any questions.
Thank you, Dylan. Are there commissioner questions of staff?
No.
Nope. Nope.
Well, I have a question. Are there any comments from the HOA?
The original project did get approval from the Blue Oaks planned from the HOA, I believe, in September of last year. This project's been on file since December of 2019. George or David, you can confirm that information. So they did receive approval. I would assume that this would need to go back to them. Just for context, there was some components of the scope of work that were removed. Most notably, there was a lawn area with a reflecting pond within that westerly portion of the site that had been removed. So that may be something that Blue Oaks HOA may need to review again and approve. But based on their approval of the broader scope of work, I would anticipate that they would approve this reduced scope of work. and I'll defer to the applicant's team to elaborate.
Thank you. And then my other question is if there's any lighting in the rill or the water feature.
My understanding is that there is none.
Thank you. All right, there are no questions, so we're going to turn it over to George and David. Welcome, George. Good to see you.
Hi, everybody.
So would you guys like to make some further comments?
I'll just do a brief introduction because I think it, for some of those that are on the board that weren't involved in the original project approval 9 years ago, or well, I guess it's longer than that. We've been living in it for 9 years. You know, there was a lot of heroics that went on to design and build this house, and the Living Building Challenge, the word challenge is in that statement for a reason. It's really hard to build this stuff. So a lot of what we're asking to have approved today is really just refinements and adjustments to a house that we've lived in for 9 years and have found some things that we really are in desperate need of repair, like the drive approach. The concrete portion is, you know, substantially intact, but the lower portion, if you recall, Dana, was resin and fill material, crushed granite of some kind, or material that really is not well suited for UPS delivery trucks, unfortunately. And so it works really well on paths, but it's disintegrating and has been for a while. And we've tried to patch it once and it just gets worse. So it's really kind of at this stage, you know, as your team has said, it's been in the queue for a very long time. And I'm afraid that we're going to be, you know, having potholes any day now. But and then from there, it's really the front entryway. The stair is existing. It's just being a little bit adjusted to create a better orientation for visitors coming to the house so that they know where the front door access really is. There's a side door, which I always thought was kind of overkill, and I was worried that it would get used more than the front door. That's exactly what's happened. So we're trying to just soften that frontscape, that hardscape a bit with adding some more softscape and landscape, and that's where you see a little bit of that along the runnel area at the very front, and accommodating for those needs and just, you know, making it a little softer. It always felt hard. I always knew that we were going to have to soften up the project at some point, but I think, you know, knowing these things today and getting it right is probably the best way to go about it. At least that's my opinion. And David, you can go ahead and add on from there.
Thanks, George. Dylan had advised us that our water use spreadsheet that there was an error in it, and there was, Dylan, thank you. We've corrected it and emailed to you just minutes ago, the revised spreadsheet. And so if it needs to be a condition of approval, it's easy to demonstrate for a building permit process that the water use correction is correct and substantially below what we're allowed to use. The only other thing I'd like to say in relation to the project as it now stands is during the initial project, we made considerable effort to actually utilize every drop of water that hit any hardscape surface on the property. And we channeled it into a 40,000 gallon subterranean tank. And that's what feeds the current irrigation system. And George mentioned heroics, and it was incredible. In fact, I was in shock when I drove up to the site and the contractor has excavated for a 40,000 gallon tank. It's easy to draw one and it's easy to show it in section. But my God, when I saw the hill of dirt that was remaining, I thought, Portola Valley is going to throw George not only out of the county, but maybe out of the state. So it was nightmarish that we were actually able to excavate that much dirt and get that tank in the ground and get it back in. But we've continued to maintain that same threshold of responsibility in terms of stormwater management. And so we've been able to maintain it in this phase of the project and expect to continue in that way. That's really all I had. I'm going to turn it over to Derek Eichelberger, who's the landscape architect on the project. And Derek, you can add whatever you need.
All right. I don't have too much to add.
You guys are feeding back.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Most of the important items have been mentioned already. These things are just to correct some issues that have made living with the landscape the way it is difficult. For example, the fruit orchard that George has is painful to look at when you see what the deer continuously do to his trees. So we've tried to make that at least a little bit more difficult for them to get into. But it also adds a nice little strolling path along that slope where one didn't exist previously. The spa in the back was originally put in at ground level, and it's really buffs up right against nature. As you can see, you guys know the house, and it's really uncomfortable to be that close to the ground when there's all kinds of like critters and things out in the evening. So we're making a raised spa with a more efficient cover. Those kinds of little things, the entry to the front door. And as far as the water efficiency spreadsheet, the issue is that it's just like a cell on an Excel program. If you put the wrong thing in it, it can make your whole program go off, and it basically doubled the water use. We did it correctly the first time, but then when they put it on the drawings, it had just gotten a bad input, garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. So it's corrected now, and we've actually emailed it to your staff already. That's it.
Are you still there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you concluding your statement?
I think so. I mean, I don't want to go through every little plant that's on the drawing. It's all water efficient. It's blends with not only the previous landscape plan, but it also blends with the existing landscape and native landscape of the area. So that's all I've got to say.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, do you have any questions of the team? Dave.
Yes. I'm curious about the thinking behind the quantity of path lights and the locations of them. Let me start with I'll call it the northeast corner of the site, where it appears there are path lights that are on the boundary between a fairly shrubby area and flat landscaping. What is the thinking behind the path lighting out there?
I'll start with an answer on that. First of all, when we did the initial plan, we really minimized lighting to the degree that it's dangerous outside right now. If you were to take an overhead view of the Blue Oaks area, you could barely notice our property, especially as compared to all the new homes that have been built, including the one directly adjacent to us at 18 Redberry. So I think what we're really after here is to make it so that we don't step on a rattlesnake at night, so that we don't trip and fall at night, and so that my wife doesn't freak out and feel like she's living in a cave.
All right. And the path lighting along the north perimeter of the house, I'm just curious how much, and what I'm headed towards is a question about switching and triggering of lights. I'm just curious about, say, the frequency of use during, dark of that path, and if it's relatively infrequently used, if there's some way to make sure that the lighting doesn't become a decorative feature rather than a functional feature, if you follow my meaning.
I hear you loud and clear. And again, I would say If you came to the property at night, today, tomorrow, you would see a far brighter glow coming from 18 Redberry than you'll ever see from anything coming from 19 Redberry. So the lighting that is on today on 18 Redberry, as a comparative example, is exactly on all the time when they're home. And our lighting today is, again, it was pretty minimized to begin with, but in comparison, I can't see that we're going to be competing with spillage of light, especially given the fact that we have as dense vegetation around the house and the perimeter of the house, and then you have their house, which actually will screen everything that would, if at all, be visible from the adjacent views on the other side of the ridge, on the other side of the hill, from anywhere else. So the house, if many of you may not know how we buried the house for the most part, on the request of one of our neighbors who sold the property and never moved in, Victor Perlroth. So, you know, we've already lowered the house substantially. It's hard, you can't see it from anywhere.
That Megan's dog.
No, that's my dog, and I'm gonna.
Oh, it's Zippity.
Sorry, that's Zippity howling. He's worried about where Nancy is. Sorry about that. So without repeating the question and making you repeat the same answer, I'll just include the meandering path lighting in that comment. I understand that these are fairly low illumination fixtures. They're close to the ground. My main concern would be, and without doing what about the neighbor? If there's problems with the neighbors and how their lighting is set up and what we approved, then bad on us. But I often have a concern, like it sounds like you might, of houses with this much outdoor illumination, essentially leaving it on all the time as a feature rather than according to the Blue Oaks guideline and town guidelines of being the minimal amount required for functionality. So I, just to sort of preview a comment I'm going to make later, I'd be vitally interested in how these are triggered and how they're switched. One thing that the town has, or at least this body has modified its thinking about in the last year or so, is the use of motion detectors for lighting. It used to be prohibited. There was a reason for that. It was conceptually about the nature of, say, spotlights on houses. But I am all in favor of lights that come on when they're needed and go off when they're not needed. So that's the sort of direction my questions are taking me, and that's really all I have to ask about. I think it's an extraordinary project, but I am concerned about the lighting becoming a decorative feature.
Thank you. Are there other questions from commissioners?
I would just actually just agree with Dave. If the path lighting would be on all the time, that could be an issue. But of course, when it's necessary, sure. I think we have, as commissioner, all agreed that anytime there's lighting exterior to the function of the immediate building, we've recommended timers and whatnot. So Dave, I absolutely agree with you.
Any questions? Any further questions from commissioners?
No.
All right, then let me open it up to public comment. Are there any people out there or people on the phone, Laura, for this item?
There's no one on the phone at this time.
Okay, so not seeing, no one's raising their hand. And so I will close public comment and bring it back to the commissioners. Megan, you want to start?
Sure. Well, I think a little fine tuning on this incredible property is welcomed. And certainly you've done a great deal of work to get to this point. I was astonished at first with the amount of lighting, but I can see how it's played out. Maybe if you could eliminate a couple through the orchard, that could be a use. You really don't go, you know, picking peaches at night. You know what I'm saying? But I do think that you've made some lovely improvements. The water use issue is looking like it's going to be lower than we thought, so that's a wonderful sign. That's it.
All right, Al?
Okay. Yeah, I'm very positive on this. I think it's a beautiful house and a beautiful site, and this is an excellent plan to improve it a little bit. But really, I don't have any objections at all. I think that the plant selections are outstanding. To the extent that the lights can be on timers and motion detectors, great. Yeah, but I didn't particularly find them overwhelming anyway. But no, I think this plan is outstanding.
Thank you, Al. Jane?
Hi. Yes, I'm happy with the project as well. I'm happy to see the consistency with the native plantings in the plan. The spa situation looks as though it's going to be fantastic. I don't know what's happening with lot 15 though, which is the one down below, whether or not that will affect you later on. Again, maybe a couple of lights in the orchard area, and happy to see the majority of native plantings. So yeah, I was sort of wondering about 25 Catalina cherries, but I didn't know whether that was a specific plant that you liked. And also the coyote brush, that my fire marshal down here is saying that I've got to pull it all out. So I don't know quite what the fire marshal's telling other people. That's probably more of a comment to Derek though. But other than that, no, happy. Thank you.
Hey, Dave.
Okay. Well, I'm supportive of the project. I think it's a wonderful project. I particularly like the hardscaping. The relocation of the spa makes sense to me. The lighting from a safety standpoint, I totally support. I do, just sort of as a philosophical background, my sense is that Portola Valley belongs to the humans during the daylight hours and it belongs to the creatures during the nighttime hours. So, to the extent that an area needs to be safe from critters and predators when you're taking out the garbage or picking peaches in the dark, I understand the need for the lighting. But as a general rule, I tend to fall more on the side of let's leave it as dark as we can. So given that, if there's a way to reduce the quantity of lighting a little bit, I'd be in favor of that. I'm not going to make that a condition. But I would like to see some serious consideration about a system that's similar to what code requires now for, say, residential restrooms, which is something called a vacancy sensor. You turn the lights on when you want them to be on, and after a while, if there's no motion or use for them, could be on a timer, then they turn themselves off. And that would be inconvenient if you're out there picking peaches at night and not making much motion and they went out. But just some thought to switching these in a way that they don't all go on at the same time and they don't all stay on all night would be appreciated. That's my my main concern. Otherwise, I think this is a fantastic project.
Thank you. And so that leaves me, and George, this still remains my favorite project in town. I just love your house. And I love what you've done. And so I'm, I actually find that this new design really inspiring. And I know that George also loves to grow edibles. So he really is, he's trying to make it work. That being said, I completely agree with Dave. Lighting, I think if they can be switched in such a way that you just switch them on when you go out to the garden. I can't imagine you'd be out there much at night, but you know, you just switch them on, and after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they go off. And I mean, that's one of the wonderful things about Blue Oaks. It's dark at night, and I think it's important to keep that vibe. But I think it's a wonderful project, and I'm excited for you. And I hope you get some cherries. All right, does anyone want to take a crack at a motion?
I will just add one key point. We're in the midst of upgrading or expanding the home automation system, which I really didn't want to go deep with when we built the house, knowing that everything was going to shift and change, and sure enough it has. So one of the things that we didn't do very much was integrating the lighting into those controls, and now we have done that on the interior and the exterior, but of course we would incorporate any additional exterior lighting. And what that would mean is we can program whatever we want. So generally speaking, today, if you drove past the house after 11:30, you wouldn't see any lighting on, because today I have the lights turning off on the exterior. Actually, they're dimming to a low level light, a lowest level light before being off after 10 o'clock or 10:15, something like that. And then they're shutting off entirely after 11:30. That's just kind of, you know, why have them on, like you say, beyond that. But when it comes to motion detection, obviously that's a piece of mechanical and, you know, operational function that doesn't always, is not foolproof, especially on the exterior, and especially with all the spider webs that can accumulate and things like that. They kind of fail, much like a lot of our exterior lighting has already failed for various reasons, obviously, not of this conversation. But so I think it's reasonable to expect that you will not see 24/7 lighting on this property.
Appreciate it.
Our saying is less is more in Portola Valley, so keep it as dark as you can. All right, does anyone want to try to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the project with staff conditions and being easily able to make all the required findings. Appears to be in compliance with the Blue Oaks ordinances. And as a side note, but not a condition, I'd like to see that the lighting control plan be part of the submission for any required permit.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I think Megan just seconded. And so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed to the motion. Congratulations, George.
Nice project, George.
Thank you very much. And again, I am saddened that it's still the high bar in your view, Dana. I thought by now somebody else would have figured it out better than me.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
All right. Moving on. I don't have the agenda in front of me. Do we have staff reports next?
It was the news of the day type thing.
Yes, the article that you sent, which was, of course, very timely.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, well chosen.
I kept thinking, slow it down, slow it down.
Embrace the shift to digital.
Yep.
Yeah, what can you say? I've had a lot of Zoom meetings in the last couple of months. So I'm trying to embrace it.
It's good. This went well, I think.
Yeah, for a first try, I thought so too.
Yeah, it's what I actually wanted to talk about in the staff report portion. We wanted to see if you had any thoughts or feedback. I mean, I do anticipate we'll be doing it this way for a little while. So this seemed to work well for our first try. Do you have any feedback for us for future meetings?
How do you get the backdrop?
Oh, how do you get a backdrop? Yeah, most people can do it on their computers. There are some people who can't, but down in your little video icon, so where it says start video or stop video, next to that there's a little arrow, and it says choose virtual background.
Oh, okay.
I just downloaded, this is a picture from outside my office at Town Hall, so I just downloaded that, and that's what I do. Dylan changes his. You can imagine. You can imagine how Jeremy changes his.
Jealous.
Yeah.
I think that this has worked out great, and you know, I think everything's wonderful. My one request, or the one thing I'm struggling a little bit with, is not having a full-size plan set.
Right.
You know, my computers aren't super powerful, and you know, moving from drawing to drawing is pretty tedious. So if there's any way we could go back to just having the paper plans to pick up, that would help me out.
Okay. What do you think about having the electron? Jane, I'm sorry, were you?
I was just agreeing with Al.
Okay. What if we do the packet electronic, so the staff report and the attachments electronic, but then just give you the plans? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's fine. That's what we were doing previously.
Yeah.
That works great for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one gentleman at the Priory, the second David, somebody was crinkling their papers, and I think I should have stopped and asked him to mute himself until it was time for him to make a comment.
Yeah. So as the chair, I think for ASCC, I think that's a good format, because I think it worked pretty well to let you have your microphones live. I thought that the quality was pretty good. Sometimes in a big meeting like this, the host of the meeting will turn off everyone's microphones and make them turn them on. But I don't know if that's really warranted, because this seemed to work pretty well for this group. So
yeah, I thought it worked extremely well, except for just that short period of time when somebody was making a little bit of noise. But yeah, out of an hour and a half, we only had 3 or 4 minutes that weren't good. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and there was zippity whining for a little while.
That's okay. We don't mind zippity.
Bring the dog.
My dog got a little crazy too.
Yeah, so maybe if we just agree, if you have background noise at your house, like if your dog is whining, just mute yourself for a while. Right. And then if one of our applicants is making background noise, then Dana, you can just ask them to mute their microphone. And I think that would do it.
Good. There you go.
Okay, so then I think this was a good test run for us. We wanted to take some projects that would be relatively straightforward. So moving forward, we will get the paper plans for you, and we'll be able to let you pick them up. We do have staff in the office now. Half of our staff is in the office at a time. So we're half in the office and half working from home. And so it is much easier for us now to do some of those logistic things that we just didn't have a way to do before. So we'll work on those procedures for the Zoom meeting, but still paper plans.
Great.
Seems to me that field meetings won't be a problem if we need them. We can just agree to be physically distant from each other.
Yeah, wear masks.
That'll work fine.
Yeah, so we had been really unsure about this because we didn't know what the county guidance would be. But now it looks like, we'll be able to do that. So we need to think about it a little bit. So the next meeting, the next 2 projects we have will need field meetings. So we'll have to think about, if there's any other logistical challenges, but now it seems like we'll be able to do them. I mean, I thought we would have to make appointments, do you know what I mean? And spread it out.
Right.
But I think if
which 2 have we got coming up?
Hold on a second.
Site meetings for. I mean, have we got quite a bottleneck here with projects? Is that
we have a little bit of a bottleneck, but not as bad as we actually anticipated when the shelter in place first started. And so these are not confirmed yet. So I just want to, do you know what I mean, put that word out there. But the next 2 things we anticipate bringing forward are 138 Goya and 319 Corte Madera. So
Oh,
319 Corte Madera can probably be viewed, you know, without a formal site meeting. Do you know what I mean? By kind of driving or walking in the area. But I think if we're very careful and keep some distance, that now with the guidance, we could probably do a site meeting.
Okay, so are we going to go back to the regular schedule for meetings? So the next one will be in 2 weeks' time.
The next regular meeting is July 13th. And it's not confirmed yet, but we are working towards that. We are working towards going back to a regular schedule.
Okay.
That's my birthday, just so you all know.
Ah!
Your birthday?
I'm going to be 20.
All right. Do we have any commission reports or staff reports?
I just miss you all.
Oh.
At least you
Thank
got the
you
dog.
to everyone that came to cheer on our, sorry, hold on. Cheer on our graduates from 8th grade from Corte Madera. I know I saw quite a few faces out there, and it really was amazing for our kids. It was amazing. I mean, it was really something. So I appreciate it.
Maybe it should be an annual event.
Well, it is an annual event, but this year was insanely cool.
Yeah.
The turnout was
fabulous.
It was. I mean, I was in tears actually driving. I'm sure Dana, you saw me. Yeah.
Just two brief updates for you, because some projects that you have been tracking. The 6 units of Priory housing, that building permit was issued. That was our first big building permit to be issued in the shelter in place. So we are very happy that we were able to do that, and they are getting mobilizing. And then we got the lighting plan for Alpine Inn for Rosati's.
Oh.
So I'm going to need 2 commissioners to look at the lighting plan. I give them some preliminary feedback, and then we'll need to take a look at that. So that's going to be coming in, and I'm sure everyone will be very interested in that, and looking forward to being able to go sit outside and eat there again. They're going to be reopening soon.
Good.
Thursday.
Great.
Oh, great. Yeah, awesome. So
right.
I just want to say thank you to all of the commissioners. You've provided us a lot of support during this time. It's really been challenging for staff to try to keep up with all the services and transfer to a digital platform. So it's been tough for us. We really appreciate all of your support and understanding as we've been getting these meetings and our services back going again.
Great. And is the thinking to continue holding meetings in the afternoon, or are we going to go back to an evening format?
Well, I'd be very interested in getting your feedback on that. I have had some interest in the time that I have been here. I think I've talked to Dana about this once or twice in making some of our meetings earlier. I think that the demographics of our community would probably support that. You know, I think that our participation would probably still be good. So I'm interested if you all are interested in doing our site meetings in the afternoon, and then maybe just a small break and scheduling the ASCC meetings not so late in the evening. Does that appeal to the commissioners?
That's fine with me. I would hope that we keep it on the same schedule of Mondays, the 2nd and 4th Mondays.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
But if we do that, and then any time is fine with me.
I like 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it away from dinner hour.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I can probably schedule around it most of the time. I do still have occasional work commitments. But Monday afternoons are usually pretty open. So I'm used to sort of reserving from 4 o'clock on anyway in case of field meetings. So that shouldn't be a problem for me.
Okay, so I'll think about it a little bit more, and just, you know, I need to confer like sort of what if we have any bylaw requirements or any code requirements, and make sure, see if there's anything we need to change. But I think for shelter in place, this really helps us to staff it, and to get the additional support from Carrie to do it earlier was helpful for us today. Yes. We're just trying to manage multiple priorities and kind of keep everything moving. So it really does help us to do it in the afternoon. So I'll look into the details of it, and then I'll be in touch with you over email so that we can confirm the scheduling for the next couple of meetings.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, I have to jump off the call. Do we need to approve any minutes?
Minutes.
Yes, we do.
Minutes.
Okay, I will approve because I have to get off.
Okay.
I do right now. I've got to go pick someone up.
Okay.
I'm late. Okay. Bye, everyone. Love seeing you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
There was a correction on B. Brown's name. B is B-E-E. It's not B-E-A. And that was the only thing I saw that caught my eye.
Okay, I didn't catch anything. It looked fine to me.
I didn't read it that closely.
Okay, well, how about if I move that we approve the minutes with the correction that Dana suggested?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so minutes are approved. And were we good to go?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Oh,
job.
hooray. Good meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
congratulations,
Holding
everybody.
my hand.
Oh, you're welcome. It went great. Thank you, Dana.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Everyone have a good night.
Thanks.